Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me today is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And yes, it is another Popcorn Conspiracy from lockdown. I feel like I should be saying, train our bed in lockdown, or something like that, but yeah, we are still in lockdown, and like we said last week, we're going to be looking at movies at the moment that are coming out, in very unusual ways, and this next movie is definitely one of those. The movie that we're looking at today is filmmaker Lorcan Finnegan's brand new movie, Vivarium, which overseas, this movie has been eagerly anticipated in cinemas for a little while, mainly because of its stars, Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg. Here in Australia, this film probably would have got like kind of the Palace Cinemas, Cinema Nova, Lido kind of treatment, because it is a very artistic kind of movie. But as a result, we get to have a look at this movie that won awards at Cannes last year. We get it coming straight to streaming services here in Australia. So to give you a little bit of a setup of this film, like I said, it comes from filmmaker Lorcan Finnegan from the United Kingdom. The movie is about a couple, Gemma, played by Imogen Poots, and Tom, played by Jesse Eisenberg. Now, Gemma is the go-getter in the family. She's working as a teacher. Tom kind of works as a gardener at the same school, but he kind of lacks motivation. He's a bit of a strange character in that he doesn't have a car. Everything that seems to be provided for from this family is coming from Gemma. Now, they're looking for a house to move into, and they go along to this place to find out about a house that they want to buy, and get taken to this very, very strange kind of suburb that's popped up in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly they find themselves trapped in this suburb and are left with the instructions to bring up this baby, who turns into a boy played by Seanan Jennings, and later an older boy played by Iana Hardwick. Now they know that if they bring up this boy and they're successful in that, they will eventually be freed, but that doesn't stop Gemma and Tom from trying to find a way out of this kind of weird utopia nightmare hell that they've found themselves in. Now, mate, this is probably one of the most unusual movies I've seen over the past couple of years. What were your thoughts on Vivarium?
Yeah, I think it seemed kind of interesting, like, hearing about it. I was expecting something maybe like The Cube or The Platform, which was recently released on Netflix. One of those movies where it's kind of like a real, like, hyper-reality kind of film, but about like people trying to escape a specific situation. Like I said, it was an interesting setup, and it had some great acting and some really, like, quite effective disturbing moments in it. But it really was kind of a hard watch, considering the movie. It was only 90 minutes long, and I think it was a film that most people, like, they'd have it figured out within 20 minutes. Like something that what the movie's supposed to represent, what the character's situation, what it represents, and there's not a whole lot more to it than that. It's something which I think would have worked a lot more as a 30-minute episode of Twilight Zone or Black Mirror, but it doesn't really work as a feature-length film, even as a relatively short feature-length film. What did you think of it, David?
Yeah, look, I was really excited to see this film because I'm a huge Jesse Eisenberg fan. Like, I know people who listen know that I love Zombieland, but I have loved so many of his movies. Like, I loved Now You See Me, I love Cafe Society, which I know a lot of people out there kind of went, oh, I don't even know if I want to see that, but I absolutely loved that film. Even stuff like American Ultra that he's done, like, absolutely love it. So for me, I was kind of excited to see this film, and because of the company that was bringing it out here in Australia as well, they bring out a lot of films here that I've ended up loving over the years. So I was kind of like really excited to watch this film, and I kind of loved the way it started. I loved the analogy that it has at the start of the movie about the nightingale bird, like how it... Cuckoo, that's right, yeah. It throws out like another bird out of the nest and lets that bird bring up its offspring. And I kind of thought that was going to be, the analogy was going to, like, tie better into the movie somehow. Like, that was going to be what kind of happens. But I think where this movie kind of falls apart is, it almost needed to be more horrific. Like, I know the creepy kid genre works really well, and like I talked recently about how much I enjoyed The Boy 2 and stuff like that, but I think with The Boy 2, the reason that worked was because it was freaking horrific. Like, for people that have seen the movie, you'll know there's a scene in that movie where the doll actually gets the boy to, like, smash this other kid with a baseball bat. Like, it works because the boy is kind of horrifying. Whereas in this film, yes, it's kind of a bland lifestyle that Tom and Gemma have to live, and it's freaky as, because they're suddenly bringing up a baby that's not theirs. But you don't really get the feeling that they're in danger, like, until they start acting up. And I think that, for me, is what kind of takes away some of the tension. Like, I don't know, like, maybe they could have, like, gone down almost like the Brightburn kind of path, where this boy is a threat. Like, this kid screams, like, but all kids scream. Like, the thing that they kind of have that's driving Tom to the point of breakdown is something that any baby does. Like, sure, it's not a high-pitched scream, and the normal babies don't grow up at, like, the rate this kid is, but I don't know, like, I almost felt like there needed to be that kind of threat that they're in danger, that if they don't get out of this world, that they're going to die, kind of thing. But that wasn't there for a majority of the film, and I think that the filmmaker was so intent on making his point about these suburbs and how they're all bland and the people that live there feel trapped, that he kind of missed the fact that this movie needed a little bit more suspense in there.
Yeah, like the metaphor of them being a young couple who are trapped, who are like trapped into young parenthood. They can't leave it, and they can't escape it, and like that this leaves a toll in their relationship and their bodies. It's all very clear, but there's nothing very clever about it.
Yeah,
you know, like that really is all the movie has. Like you say, they're not really in danger; they're trapped, but and the movie takes place really over about a year.
Yeah.
So they are trapped, but they're not really in danger from being trapped. So, like, it does get quite boring at times. The movie, it blatantly foreshadows that what's going to happen, as you said, with the cuckoo bird in the first 5 minutes. And then, I mean, that, like, cuckoo bird, about that. They even pointed it out in the recent James Bond movie, Spectre, about cuckoo birds. People know what cuckoo birds do. They lay their eggs in another bird's nest, and that bird raises the baby bird, and that's it. But so it blatantly foreshadows what's going to happen with this baby that they're being forced to raise, and in the first 5 minutes, and then in the last 5 minutes, just in case you didn't catch what the entire movie was about, what the characters were going through, the whole motherhood and fatherhood metaphor, the characters just explained that. Like, that was the movie, what the movie was about. And, like, for a movie which is so, like, damn boring, and, like, it has so little to keep a regular audience's interest, and so it needs to rely on its nature of being such, like, an unconventional allegorical movie story. It feels very cheap for the filmmakers to just explain exactly what's going on at the end, just in case we didn't get it. It just feels like, yeah, there really needed to be a lot more to the movie.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend who really loved it, and they were saying to me that they felt elements of the Hunger Games in this film, like that. It kind of looks at the class system, and it uh, has that suspense that this person's trapped in a game that they can't get out of. But to me, what happens in the Hunger Games is very, very different. I mean, Katniss is actually in a game, literally, of life and death. It's not just her like being trapped and being made do something. She can actually die from what she's being made do, and like it kind of to me, I didn't get that feeling at all of danger early on. In fact, like it almost came across to me with that kind of feeling of, well, just do the job. Like, you do the job, you get out, kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, I didn't feel that kind of that pressure that they're in danger, kind of thing. Like, it was very clear what they had to do on that piece of paper: bring up the child, and you'll be given your freedom. And it's like, okay, so your life's going to be a little bit boring for a little while. That's all right. You'll be able to get through that. I think I needed that next level of like, even if it was the environment itself that was killing them, or they'd already kind of set up that Tom was a little bit unhinged. If he'd gone into almost that kind of that element of like he could actually physically harm her, kind of thing. Like, it didn't ever feel like it pushed that point. Like, there's a point in this movie where it's like he may hurt the boy, but it doesn't then remind the audience, well, hang on a minute, if he hurts the boy, they're not going to get their freedom. So, I don't know, maybe they could have like pushed that a little bit more. And he's the kind of actor where they could easily have done that. Like, he's an actor who I feel is better in that kind of role where you really, really test Jesse Eisenberg. And I think they kind of let him off a little bit here, where they could have really put him into Jack Nicholson territory here with The Shining, where it's like this man is so trapped that he could possibly kill his wife. You could have played with mental illness. Like, people talk about the isolation that we're all in at the moment and how like it's affecting people. And tragically here in Australia over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a couple of murders where mental health has become an issue because someone has been in isolation. You could have really played with that, where he starts to blame his wife that he's trapped in this situation with this child, and he wants to kill her. That kind of thing. Like, they could have really dealt with that, but I think they kind of went soft on that.
Yeah, like Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg, they're good in the movie.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, they're really let down by this kind of a weak script. Like, for me personally, at no point did they really come off as a believable couple. Like, the writers, they're so in a hurry to get us to this neighborhood and the meat and potatoes of the movie that, like, they only have like one quick scene together outside the school where Gemma teaches and Tom does gardening work, but like that really it's just to set up the whole cuckoo analogy, and also to explain why Tom has gardening equipment, a ladder and a shovel and a pickaxe and all this stuff that he's going to be using later in the movie. And like, to be honest, like, Jesse Eisenberg felt a little miscast, at least as far as him being, like, supposedly this manual labor type guy in his mid-30s. It just felt like you needed somebody a lot more, somebody who didn't play the guy who created Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, to play that kind of a role. So yeah, the degradation of their relationship as they grow to resent each other and fall out of love because of how trapped they are. It doesn't really feel feel natural. It feels just as forced as the setup to establish that they were in a relationship in the first place. The movie, it's also kind of a movie that, like, because of things like that, you need to ignore a lot of stuff about the movie which doesn't make sense. I know, like, it kind of goes in the nitpicking area here, but, like, in a movie like this, there's so little to it that I feel that, like, the least that the movie can do is have everything work. Like, the characters' reactions and the way that the world works. And I think this movie fails at that. There's another movie, Time Crimes, which is about it's a very, very simple movie, but it's about time travel. And it works really well because it's like there's a lot of stuff going, compared to this. There's a lot of stuff going on to it, but the writers, they really worked hard to make sure that everything within the movie worked. And yeah, I felt like they didn't really pull that off here. Like, the characters, they're supposed to be trapped in this neighborhood for nearly a year, yet their hair never changes style. They never try to break into another house or experiment with different ways to try to escape their prison. Even when they first drive into the neighborhood, they see streets and streets of the exact same cookie cutter looking ugly green baby shit colored houses, and they don't say anything.
Yeah,
you know, I think, like, this is probably because, like, this was all added in CGI later, and nobody knew how alien it would be for the two people for two people to walk into this environment and not say anything about it, like, not make any kind of comment. Oh wait, this looks all weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, from about the halfway point onwards, the only thing really happening in the movie is Tom is digging a hole. He gets it in his head that he's going to dig a hole, and, like, no reason really for him to do this. It could have worked as, I think, for the meaning of what it is. I think it could have worked to the film's basic metaphor that he's ordered to nearly kill himself with pointless manual labor while Gemma takes care of the baby, or else they won't be fed. Kind of like really forcing them into that basic father go work, mother take care of baby dynamic, and that kind of, like, drives them to some kind of, like, insanity. Like, I know that it's a weird thing to focus on, but yeah, it's just like the movie doesn't really go into this, so, like, Tom's character is kind of pointless. He just digs this hole at the same time, like, and this is like, at the same time as him digging this hole, like, it's this 20-meter hole by the end of the movie. The pile of dirt outside the hole never gets any bigger, and I know that this is it's a weird thing to focus on, but, like, I hate to say, the movie is so boring that your mind wanders while you're watching it, and you start thinking, this doesn't work, why don't they do this? And I think that's a really bad place for your movie to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I found myself comparing it to other films that I'd seen that had similar kind of veins too. Like, I found myself thinking of two Matt Damon movies, Suburbicon and Downsizing, where they kind of, like, touched on that same kind of element of the, like, for Downsizing, the trapped marriage, let's do this to be a little bit different kind of thing, and Suburbicon, like, that, the perfect community kind of thing. I don't know, like, I don't know whether this movie would have worked a lot more if we'd seen other people trapped as well. Like, you do kind of see it in a montage later on, but I don't know, like, it just felt like it was a very claustrophobic movie, but not in the good way. Like, there have been films in the past, like something like Life of Pi, where you feel claustrophobic, but you feel claustrophobic in a good way because you feel trapped, like the cast. But here, you kind of felt claustrophobic, but nothing was happening. Like, I found myself at different times in this movie, and because I was watching at home, it was easier to do. I was pausing it and going and doing other things, because it wasn't, like, gripping me. Whereas there's been other movies that I've watched since I've been in lockdown where I've heard the washing machine stop and I haven't got up. Like, I've sat there and kept on watching the film. But with this one, it just felt like there was a lot of nothing happening at times, and it just needed that suspense. That's all it needed to me, was it needed that suspense where these characters that I care about are in danger, and yeah, like I said before, the boy screaming just wasn't enough. Like, it needed that kind of thing of, these guys are going to die if they don't do what this kid wants them to do, or this kid's actually going to put them in danger. There was even an element at one point where I wondered when the boy got older if he was going to fall in love with his mother, and have that kind of element there. But it just felt like this was one of those movies where the filmmaker kind of like stepped back from going in that next vein of horror kind of thing, or not even horror, like a movie like Bad Boy Bobby, where the director like pushed it into that next level where it's like, hey, this is really messed up. But this director felt like he wanted to make a statement, but at the same time he wanted to make a safe film.
Yeah, it's like the actual like horror elements, like they're so few and far between, little tiny things. Like once, like okay, there's something supernatural going on here. There is something bizarre and supernatural about this boy, but like yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. There's just Jesse Eisenberg digging a hole for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The movie, it does have like an effective score, and it has decent cinematography. So like in a way, like yeah, it does give you that like uncomfortable claustrophobic feel, which like it would have served the movie well had it been otherwise a more interesting movie to watch. Instead, the audience, like we as the audience, feel like trapped watching the movie, and like it's easy to say that's the point, but I don't care. It's damn boring. Like exactly like what you said about how uncomfortable it would have been to watch this movie in a cinema, and it reminds me of what we said about the film The Nightingale, and how much more effective that movie was in a packed small cinema that we couldn't escape from when we were watching it. Like you can't pull it, like when the really heavy stuff in that film hits you can't get away from it. Like you're trapped. You have to watch that stuff. Same thing as Climax with Gaspino's Climax and some of his other films. It's like there's some movies that are really effective to watch in a cinema because you can't get away from it. You can't look at your phone. You can't do anything. You've got to watch the movie, and it really it helps the whole feel of the film.
Yeah.
But like this will sound really bad, man, but like The Nightingale, that was a more pleasant experience than I imagine this would have been, watching this in a cinema. Like I'm glad like that this was an online screener, because like I would rather be trapped in a cinema watching a movie where a woman is gang raped and her husband killed and her baby has its head smashed in than watching this movie for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and the same, like I was just thinking while you were talking about that, I was thinking of other movies where not a lot happens, but the writing is so good that the movie elevates the next level. And a movie we were just talking about before off air, Marriage Story, is a perfect example of that. That Marriage Story is a lot like this movie. They could have been staged as a play and it would have worked like a piece of theatre. But the thing that works with Marriage Story is the climatic scenes that are written that Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson have to deliver, where you'll have a scene, and for those who haven't seen Marriage Story, it looks at a couple who are divorcing and they both agree, look, this divorce is going to be really easy. It'll be an amicable separation. We'll split the time with our child evenly and it'll all go fine. And then when lawyers get involved, it turns nasty. Oh, he's a bad father. He doesn't give enough money into the family. He's got money and he's got it on the side and he won't use it for his family. And then it turns into, oh, well, she's not a good mother. Let's bring that up in court. And you have these wonderful scenes where outside of the courtroom, Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver have these meetings and it just turns into a screaming fest. Like there's the scene that you've probably all seen the clip of where Adam Driver ends up putting his fist through the wall, and then that's used against him in court. Like, oh, he's a violent man. He punched a hole in the wall, like, near her head. But it's those scenes, and it's those moments that make that film watchable, even though nothing much is happening, really. Like, it is like a theatre production, like this film. But this film doesn't have those suspenseful moments. Like I said before, I would love to have seen a scene in this movie where either one of these characters was so close to cracking that they were going to kill the other. Like, there's so many moments in this movie where it would have worked. Like, there's one scene in this film where Tom's had enough of the baby and he's willing to lock it in the car to try and shut it up. That would have been the perfect opportunity to have Imogen Poots' character snap and, like, lash out at him. Like, you can't do this to the child. Because even though she's fighting against it, her motherly instincts are actually are starting to kick in. But the director doesn't do that. It feels like these two actors are trying to put in this great performance that would be the kind of performance they would put in if this was a theatre production, but they never get pushed to that extra level. They never get told, go into gear 10. And it's not their fault. It's not there for them to go into. So that, for me, I think is why this movie isn't as enjoyable as what it could have been. Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking there, again, like other theatre, like movies that are based on theatre productions, or they could be theatre productions, like Glengarry Glen Ross, that's one of my favourite movies, and the entire second half of that movie is just basically all in just the office of this real estate office, as the characters just argue with each other. Like, that's the entire second half of the movie, is just characters talking and arguing with each other, and it's amazing. People still quote it today, like almost 30 years later.
Yep.
Like, it's that interesting of a film. But yeah, and there's not even any like violence, or it's not any violence. The whole mystery kind of thing to it isn't really that much. It really is just an acting piece, and like, this movie had great actors, and yeah, kind of squandered them on really an uninteresting script, because they just wanted to focus on the whole the metaphor that the movie was going for.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it really failed because of that.
One of my favourite movies ever that is in that kind of realm is a film, and I saw it when I was a very, very young teenager for the first time on VHS. It came out in the 80s. It's called Ice House, and it's kind of known as the movie where Melissa Gilbert finally played a role that was kind of breaking out of a good girl kind of role that she'd had from Little House on the Prairie. And the movie is almost all set in one room, except for flashbacks. And it is about a boy confronting the woman that he lost his virginity to. And it starts off as in, I miss you, I want you back kind of thing. And then you start to realize that there's something sinister here, that she took his virginity when he was underage. And what she has done has really messed him up over the years. But the tension that those two, I think Bo Brinkman might have been the other actor that was in it. Melissa Gilbert and Bo Brinkman. The tension that comes between them as the story starts to play out is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, when you start to realize that this woman ruined his life, and it's hitting him now. That is the kind of power that you can get from a dialogue-driven movie when you've got characters trapped. But yeah, this film just doesn't do that at all for me. It needed to go up to that top gear, and it never got there. So I guess that leads to, what are you going to give this movie out of 5?
I'm going to give this 1.5 out of 5. Mostly just, again, the actors were decent enough with the job that they had. The cinematography and the score was pretty good. I did like the real estate agent at the beginning. There was, like, the way that he was normal, but there was something off-putting about him.
Yeah.
But there was just so many things wrong with the movie, and just that, again, like, this entire thing, just as I really think this movie, just as an episode of an anthology series or something like Twilight Zone, would have been fine. But yeah, just as a movie, it's 1.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, something like one of the anthologies, like the A to Z of horror, or something like that comes out every few years. I think it would have made a a worthy kind of short film going into that. We probably didn't mention enough earlier, but I thought Sheenan Jennings and Ina Hardwick were very good in the roles of playing the boy as well.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm going to give this one 2 out of 5 because I really think that this is a script that kind of lets down Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots. This could have been an absolutely amazing film for both of them. To have that opportunity to really, really put in a great acting performance. And I think this movie kind of holds them back. There's times in this movie where I felt like Jesse Eisenberg felt like a horse with a bridle. Like, he wanted to bolt, he wanted to go to that Jack Nicholson level, but the script just didn't allow him to. And it's like, no, you're going to go dig a hole. And it's like, oh man, I really want to see him like go on a rampage or something. Like, with the way that it was pressuring his character. But yeah, 2 out of 5 for me because I really feel that the film never goes to that next level that it should have gone to. And that's it for this episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy. 2 stars out of 5 for Vivarium for me, 1.5 from Kyle. We'll be back very, very soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll see you again very, very soon.